All right, everyone. Good evening. It is July 30th, 2020, and you are here for a special called session of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission. We simply have 2 items of business tonight, but to begin, I'm going to ask the clerk to do the roll call.
Davenport.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Blank.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Denson.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Harrod.
Present.
Thornton.
Here.
Handy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate it. First order of business, since these are new items that have to be considered under suspension of rules, is to hear a call for suspension of rules. Do I hear that motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Edwards and a second from Commissioner Parker for suspension of rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Rules are suspended. So we move on to new business. The first matter of which is an ordinance for the 6th declaration of a local state of emergency related to COVID-19. We, under our emergency management ordinance, the underlying foundation that allows us to do emergency management activities, have to extend the emergency 1 month at a time or 30 days at a time. And in our 6th declaration, there are a couple of amendments that I do want to point out to the public before I turn it over to Commissioner Link, who has one additional amendment. The first matter is Section 4 regarding alcohol transportation. It's come to light that some places are interested in being able to serve seated areas off premises. So, for example, if there's a parking lot 2 doors down from a bar or restaurant, they want to be able to have a server walk the drink down there. And to do that, they, of course, would have to walk onto the public right-of-way, which normally would be disallowed. But we do want to encourage use of those downtown spaces. And so Section 4 will include alcohol transportation from a licensed D, E, or F alcohol class vendor to a seating area within 100 feet of the outside wall of that establishment. So that's one modification. Section 5 ensures that occupation tax and regulatory fees are pushed back for those who are still struggling. And so those under this order are now not due until October. And then Section 6 concerns masks. And before I turn this over to Commissioner Link, I just want to note that the version online makes it explicit that all persons within the jurisdiction of Athens-Clarke County shall wear a facial covering or mask over the nose and mouth when inside a commercial entity or other building or space open to the public, or when in an outdoor space when it's not feasible to maintain appropriate social distance from another person that is in the same household. So effectively, this means if you're on a crowded sidewalk, if you're queuing up to get a cup of coffee, you either have to maintain social distance or wear that mask. If you can't maintain social distance, you're expected to wear that mask. And then further, Section E defines that distance by which you have to step apart from somebody as 6 feet. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to Commissioner Link. She has one further amendment to describe that's part of Section E. So go right ahead, Commissioner.
I just would like to propose in the exemptions to face coverings. Currently, we have an exemption where you are not required to wear a face covering, regardless of whether you're indoors, outdoors, socially distanced or not. You're not required to wear a face covering while drinking, eating, or smoking. I propose that we divide that exemption to read while seated, drinking, or eating, and then have the full-on exemption for smoking. I mean, you're typically outdoors anyways while smoking. You could be seated or standing smoking. Pull your mask down. I've completely embedded myself in the research on this and the fact that this virus spreads through aerosolized particles as well as droplets. and the transmission is extremely high in bars. And you are more likely to transmit it when you're expelling those droplets and that aerosol at a higher altitude where it stays in the air longer. The science is clear on this. This also reinforces the governor's orders. The governor's order, as it pertains to capacity limits, I'll read this. And I thank the attorney for bringing this language up. The governor's current order provides in pertinent part concerning seating in bars that bars shall implement additional measures to prevent the spread of COVID as practical. Such measures shall include establishing seating areas for patrons to discourage loitering at the bar or in commonly trafficked areas, providing service only to seated patrons, or if not applicable to patrons in designated areas that are practicing social distancing, redesigning seating arrangements to ensure at least 6 feet of separate seating, or utilizing physical barriers to separate groups than 6 feet, and limiting party size at tables to no more than 6 patrons. This will act, we have no means of enforcing this. This provision will encourage the enforcement of that within these establishments, and that folks will have to be seated while they're eating and drinking. If you need to get up to use the restroom, you put your mask back on. If you need to get up to order another drink, you put your mask back on. And also, it also brings some equity to these downtown establishments. We have establishments that do not have seating at all, and thus their capacity is allowed to be very, very high, which is also very, very dangerous. We have several establishments that are practicing this. They are engaging in best practices, and they have not seen any transmission rates. They're already doing the right thing. They're already ensuring that their patrons are wearing masks and that they're seated while they're eating and drinking. So if we can just make this a practice throughout our downtown bar scene, we can help stave off the spread of this virus. We're following science, we're following public health guidelines, and we're bringing some equity to the whole scene. So I would like to make a motion that we adopt this new order with that amendment while seated, eating or drinking.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Again, thank you, Commissioner Hamby. So we've got a motion from Commissioner Link, a second from Commissioner Hamby. Any further discussion or questions? Got Commissioner Harrod.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify something. And I think this might have just been a slip of the tongue from Commissioner Link, but she mentioned bars downtown. I'm assuming that this would apply across the county and not just downtown.
Yeah, it does.
Correct. That's exactly right. Commissioner Wright.
I have a question with that because, Melissa, we had talked about, Commissioner Link, we had talked earlier about adding this detail, and I didn't think that it did fit into the executive order, that this would be bringing us into a different realm of that category.
Well, we are adjusting the executive order to mandate mask wearing on our sidewalks, and this is just a very minor adjustment, essentially adding one word and assuring that our executive order is in line with the governor's executive order and the recommendations of the governor's executive order as regards to seating arrangements, discouraging congregating around bars.
But then you've got the bar seat. I mean, and this is all, I don't have to describe a bar scene to you guys. I mean, we're not doing this because of Bible Belt sort of thing. We're trying to do it for health and safety. But that means, you're sitting at the bar seat is no different than a table seat. It seems to me like you're implying a table seat versus a bar seat. And that's why I'm saying
quite frankly, it's not being very specific as to whether it's a bar or a table, but at least it will prevent those gaggled gatherings. And I've driven downtown the past couple weekends and witnessed, and I've been there. We've all been there. You go out to a bar, you're up in each other's faces, you're hugging, you're kissing, you're licking eyeballs, whatever you do. But we've got to lay down some rules that we can't do that in these times. Go ahead. I mean, alcohol does not give you COVID. But breathing in each other's spaces does give you COVID. So this is meant to discourage the breathing in each other's spaces as much as possible. It's simple science, simple public health recommendations. The governor's order even recommends it. If we at the very least we can follow the governor's orders.
Commissioner, I want to read into the record that I have never licked an eyeball in a drinking establishment.
And so while I'm still getting my questions asked, I don't think that this is just one simple word added to it. I mean, I understand your logic. I understand your passion. I feel like we're in the hot seat as it is, and this seems like we're being into the big flames. But Mayor Gertz, can you show me where the part that you read about the sidewalk, with that whole queue up thing? I wanted to make sure I got that covered.
So that is, if you're looking at the public document that's on the portal, so that is in section 6, which is on page 7.
Yeah, I've got the printout of it, so I'm under section.
So you'll then look down to 6B. 6B says that
all persons
within the jurisdiction, goes on to say, whenever it's not feasible to maintain appropriate social distance from another person not in the same household. And then in the next section that Melissa was just describing, we describe appropriate distance as 6 feet.
Right. So you're describing on the sidewalks what a lot of the establishments have done with their stickers on the floor while you're waiting for your turn in line with their 6 feet sticker. But since we don't have stickers on our sidewalks, it's implying that when people are waiting to go into, whether it's the bakery or coffee shop, like you said, or a bar.
That's correct.
That then
that you would be wearing a mask.
Yeah, and that the enforcement side of it, or the person in line, can remind people that hey, you need your mask on, and you need to be 6 feet away. Right.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I totally agree with that, and I'm still processing this seated part because I just wanted to get that while the others chime in. I just wanted to think about the seated part.
Okay, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my concern is that I hadn't thought of before until we were talking about this, is the while drinking or eating seated. That language seems to me that would count if you were, say, walking on the Greenway drinking from a water bottle, or anywhere else in town. If you grab something to go as you're walking downtown, having a sandwich or anything down the sidewalk.
It does note, Tim, that physical activity is permitted without a mask, so long as you're 6 feet apart from one another. And so that would include like walking with a sandwich or a bottle of water. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, that's as long as we feel comfortable that would be in there. If I'm eating a foot-long hot dog, we can count that as exercise now.
So they have contests around that. It's nearly an Olympic sport. Patrick.
A hot dog, and you know how far away you have to be from someone.
Yep. Can you, and I'm sorry, I wasn't busy week. Can you explain the section 4 again?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in context of the governor's order.
Sure. So, Section 4 reads, any provisions of the alcohol beverage ordinance which prohibit any person from having in his or her possession any alcohol beverage in any open container be temporarily suspended as it applies to patrons or employees of any restaurant possessing a Class D, D1, E, or F license, and those are pouring licenses, who are transporting, serving, or consuming alcoholic beverages in an outdoor seating area within 100 feet of the outer wall of licensed premises, or who are transporting alcoholic beverage across public streets, sidewalks, or rights of way for the purpose of serving or consuming said beverages. So among the other things that would be true is the parklet idea, which is going to be in front of this body for approval on Tuesday, would allow somebody to walk from a front door of a restaurant, cross 15 feet of a sidewalk, and serve somebody who might be sitting on what's now parking place where there would be a seating arrangement. Similarly, if there was a restaurant and 2 doors down, there was a private parking lot and there were seats there, you, if you were a patron of that restaurant, or you, if you were a server, would be able to walk that drink down the sidewalk and not fear getting ticketed.
Okay, I meant on page 5 of 8, section 4, for the protection of members of the public, including members of vulnerable populations and members of the population at risk, facial coverings or masks shall be required in public spaces within ACC. So, in the last governor's executive order, local. Can you explain that in context with the governor's last executive order?
I'm sorry. Help me get to the right place again. Oh, I'm on page 8 of the PDF.
5 of 8.
5 of 8.
In section 4. From the ATC Gov. Oh, maybe I'm reading.
You may be in the next agenda item. Yes. So the next agenda item is the one that concerns the hours of operation.
Okay.
Are you in the emergency order?
I will catch up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the emergency order. I mean, skip over me. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Any other questions or input? All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. All right. Hearing no other input, I'm going to ask Clerk Spratlin to make a roll call.
Link,
Yes.
Wright, Wright,
Sorry, I'm back. So this is just for the substitute motion that's adding in seated, right? Everything else is what was in our.
This is for the CDO that includes that clause.
Only
if seated.
Seated. Okay, I'm a no on that.
Okay.
Denson,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Thornton,
Yes.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
No.
Parker,
Uh-oh. She's.
Yes. Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
6 yes, 3 no.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate it very much. All right. We're moving on to the second agenda item, and this is alcohol licensee hours of operation ordinance. Obviously, this has been the subject of much community conversation, and similar items have been similarly up for lots of community conversation in many other communities across this country. I'll say for myself, I would wish we were not in this situation, but I would very much wish we were not in this healthcare crisis we're in. This would modify our hours of operation so that those pouring licenses D, E, and F and associated licenses would require ending of service at 10 o'clock with a 45-minute resolution period. So somebody who ordered a drink right at 10 would receive 45 minutes to consume before. If you were a bar, you have to close, or if you were a restaurant, you can only serve food after the 10 o'clock. I do want to note I've been in touch with our federal Senate and House offices. I strongly encourage them to move as quickly as possible toward the next aid package, including extended unemployment benefits. I would ask everybody who's watching this to contact those offices. I encourage that of my colleagues here on the commission. That has been among the very critical and understandable areas of public concern. However, as I think referenced in the last conversation, We simply know so much about the very specific nature of the close interior quarters of a bar as it pertains to the droplet and aerosol transmission of the Corona-19 virus. And so we are joining all of South Carolina, many places in Texas, and places across the country in setting an early last call. So I know there is also a commission-defined option as it pertains to the license fees, which we already had set, but are still in a position to amend given that those alcohol license fees aren't due till October. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Denson to discuss that.
Thank you, Mayor. And the one part that on the CDO I'm presenting that changes what we had there previously was we were talking about having a system of credits that affected establishments could utilize. And after hearing from staff and also after hearing from owners of bars and establishments and restaurants, it became clear that it would be easier for us to implement and easier for bar owners and restaurant owners to take advantage of if these were more clear, just we simply lowered the amount of the actual fees. So on section 4, I am recommending that we change it that instead of the system of credits, that we will instead have it say Athens-Clarke County, the manager of Athens-Clarke County is hereby directed and authorized to reduce the 2021 alcohol license fees for those establishments affected by the reduction in hours of operation in the following amounts. Put in Class D, reducing to $1,500, reducing Class E to $450, and reducing Class F to $450. And this body had already voted to reduce the fees for this year, as you mentioned, Mayor. But this will drastically lower them down. Class D was last year at $5,000, and this will have it down at $1,500. So to give some, to relieve some of the financial burden that it's possible that this policy could put on those business owners. But I'm hoping that by taking these proactive steps now, it'll lessen the damage going forward and lessen how long these kind of things have to be put in place. And hopefully by, bringing about an early last call for bar owners, it'll bring out an earlier last call for COVID-19. That's my hope. So I go ahead and move that we accept that.
I'll second.
CDO.
All right. Other commission input.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yeah, Commissioner.
So the price difference. So Class D is reduced to 15, and then 450. What's it currently?
It currently was planned to be for this fiscal year that we've just entered, 2,500, 750, and 750.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other input from commissioners?
I have a little input. I just want to add that this is not an easy decision to make, but it is one that we have to make. By all epidemiological standards, this whole state should be shut back down in quarantine again. And it's the science is crystal clear that bars are super spreader environments, primarily because people do gather closely face to face and their inhibitions are down. Alcohol does not give you COVID, but it leads to behavior that can give you COVID. I do hope, as Commissioner Denson said, that we can get this under control so we don't have to keep this early closure in place very well. And I do hope that the measure that we just passed that does make some requirements for folks to wear their masks in bars and restaurants, unless they're actually seated and eating and drinking, that will help lower that transmission rate. We're about to see 30,000 college students descend upon this town this weekend. We've got to do something. South Carolina did this several weeks ago. Miami Beach laid down an 8 o'clock curfew. I will say that, these colleges will continue to party off campus and in houses and apartments. And that's why I urge us to return to our loud and unruly gatherings ordinance So we can tighten that up to assure that some of those gatherings can be discouraged, especially any that might endanger public health by having people gathering face to face unmasked.
And I would note, Commissioner, and you probably have seen this, that the White House Coronavirus Task Force recommendation is that a state like Georgia that's in the red zone go down to allowable gatherings of no more than 10 rather than the 50 that we currently have. So, Commissioner Davenport.
Okay. And I'm sorry on this. I was mentioned the previous. I was talking about Section 6, but sorry about that. So I do have some concerns. I agree that we need to do something, but I do have some concerns about this. And I do want to vouch for some of the bar owners and restaurants, because this will affect all bar owners and restaurants throughout Athens-Clarke County. And I do want to commend some of the bars and restaurants who were doing a really good job in combating COVID-19. And it breaks my heart to the fact that, the people who are actually following CDC guidelines are getting punished because of one or two bars. And, I just think we should have done a much better job of addressing this issue. As well, Sergeant Lusk, she has done a phenomenal job in issuing citations. She's very passionate. And I heard that even the governor has come in and started issuing citations to some of these bars. But from my perspective, and I do support this thing, but from my perspective is the fact that we seem to always focus on the college students and the bars. And we should, that's a population of people who, like to have a good time, and they are more than likely going to be asymptomatic, and they're more likely going to be more social. But at the same time, we live in, y'all bear with me, at the same time, we live around 5 counties, Oglethorpe, Madison, Barrow, Jackson, Oconee, that don't have the same ideals as we. And considering the fact that 40% of the Athens population commute to work, they're either coming into Athens or leaving Athens, that are going into these populations that are not practicing what we're practicing, that just focusing literally just on downtown and the downtown bars, and then punishing the many, the 10s, the 20, the 30s of the bars and restaurants, or the hundreds of bars and restaurants throughout Athens-Clarke County that are doing a good job because of one or two bars, purposely downtown, that are not doing a good job. Considering the fact of our surrounding counties and the fact that, employees are commuting in, and there are some residents who just, unfortunately, I would have to say, just don't care. It seems like we're legislating carelessness when there's a much bigger issue at hand. And I just feel that we're going to have another emergency declaration down the road, maybe 2 weeks. The school's about to open, just like Commissioner Link said. But, not just college, but we have the 5 surrounding counties, their school's about to open. We got more businesses that are, are relaxing, I won't say relaxing restrictions, but are not teleworking anymore, and they're asking some of their employees to come back into the workplace. And just to address the downtown bars, or just one or two bars, and do a citywide, reduction of our liquor, alcohol pouring hours. I just think we're not looking at the big picture. But in order to save lives, we're doing the right thing. But holistically, we really need to have a work session with our local hospitals, because we shouldn't have commissioners going to the media speaking for them. They should be speaking to the people themselves. And then we did create a small group of a task force doing our first emergency declaration to provide insight for the community and for the county on what's going on. And we really need to utilize their expertise, because these are the people on the front line who's talking to the hospitals, who are talking to legislators, who are talking to the epidemiologists and the doctors to find out what's the best practice we can have. And I just think emotions are high. People in the community, their anxieties are high. And when we go to the media and we fan those flames, all we're doing is creating more excitement, and we create these declarations that don't really solve the problem. It solves part of the problem, but we need to start taking these big approaches and saying, let's look down the road. The perfect example was with our pools. County Manager Blaine and has been sending out emails and letting us know that these are the stages of our pools as our parks reopening. So we were well aware that people were going to be swimming in our pools. And then when we saw that people were swimming in our pools, we became reactionary and we had to shut them down. So I'm just trying to look down the road when county schools open, our surrounding county schools open, when UGA opens, and keep in mind other counties are spiking as well, and they don't have institutions, that we seriously gotta not continue to have these emergency declarations, but take a holistic approach at this thing. And I think we're picking and choosing losers, and we're punishing the people who are literally doing a good job. And for me, I don't go downtown, but I see a lot of adults who are not following, social distancing guidelines and CDC recommendations. We're having outbreaks at some of our manufacturing plants and stuff. So, but I don't like this, but if we can do anything to save somebody's life, let's do it. But I'm just urging our commissioners to be leaders about this. I'm urging, the county manager and staff to let's put our heads together. Let's have a work session. Let's knock this out. And let's not go to the media. And I'm putting the ball in our two hospitals' court to say it's best for you to lead the conversation, because if we lead it or somebody else lead it, all you're going to be doing is playing defense. So it's not for us. It's for the community. It's for all the counties that you serve, and it's for the people in the area. So don't do it for us, the two hospitals. Do it for yourself. And the bigger picture is that we are completely, our hands are tied by the state. So and since the state and federal government are not taking this as seriously as we would like them to do, the city government has to step in, because and it's unfortunate, but I had a longer speech, but hopefully, if anybody got a question, please ask. I'm just a little concerned that we're always focusing on downtown, and and taking pictures and going to the media. But at the same time, I have been screaming to my people, the people who look like me, about issues that are taking place at the Triangle, issues that are taking place at the Housing Authority, and is it a racial thing? Is it only because white people are downtown that we want to take legislative action and just leave the black and brown people to do nothing? I don't know, but it doesn't sit well with me that we're always talking about downtown, which is exclusive, mostly white people, but there's issues in other communities that people don't seem to be taking pictures of and going to the media about. But this is good legislation, and I'm just kind of twisted on how, but thank y'all for the hard work that y'all put in.
Commissioner, thanks for the comments. What I can certainly agree on is that holistic work is necessary. And I think, among the challenges you highlighted is that we've not gotten the holistic support from the federal and the state level that the community and every community needs. So, all right, I'm interested in wrapping up quickly, but I want to move on very quickly to Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I just want to mention to Commissioner Davenport that I've requested that the Department of Public Health, our local Northeast Georgia Health District, start providing us at least weekly reports on demographic data of COVID-19 infections and deaths in our immediate community, so we can start crafting some localized policy that's targeted to specific communities where outbreaks are happening, so we can start protecting those communities and forming policy that's specific to particular communities, particular behaviors, and get this thing under control so we can stop people from dying throughout this community.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. I plan to support this legislation. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And I just want to be clear that this does apply countywide. And if the commissioner from District 1 wants to offer any sort of legislative proposal dealing with the problems he's talking about, I'm all ears. The commissioner from District 1 did mention that there's been some outbreaks at manufacturing plants, and I hadn't heard that, so I was wondering if maybe he'd like to elaborate on that. Thanks.
So from constituents and other people, family members, I've heard that, and I heard, maybe outbreak is not the word, but I've heard several employees have been calling in sick due to COVID-like illnesses, and I heard, and it could be hearsay, but just from family members and friends that there have been, I'm not mentioning the manufacturers, but there was 2 manufacturing plants in Athens-Clarke County where several employees were not practicing social distancing due to the manufacturing nature of their operations, and that PPE equipment are not readily distributed and available. That employees are coming to work ill-prepared, and some of the employees are becoming sick.
Thank you, commissioners. I don't want us to stray too far from the subject matter at hand. I will note, though, that as either community members or commissioners hear of outbreaks or cases, please route that to the Northeast Health District. If you want to contact the manager's office, they certainly can contact them on your behalf as well.
Yeah, I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other commission input before the vote? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me.
All right. All right. Please note against or vote against from Commissioner Davenport, Clerk Spratlin.
Mayor, can you verify the second on this motion?
Yeah. Motion was from Commissioner Denson, second from Commissioner Link. All right. Got the clerk?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Wright, second from Commissioner Davenport. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are adjourned. Be safe, everyone.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you soon.
Hey, y'all.